Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Tonight is a kind of exciting night. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a topic discussion on inside the chakras. So, thank you for joining us. If you're listening outside of IntuiTalks, this is Energy Readings with Shelby Aesthetic, and this is going to be the beginning of a three-part topic discussion on Inside the Chakras blog that I wrote last year. Um, what's really interesting about this is, and I really wanted to, before we really get started, I really wanted to mention a few things that are coming up. But what's really interesting about this show tonight is these are going to be about, this is about my blog and my vision of how I view the chakras and the chakra system. And toward the end of it, we'll do a brief meditation that you can do wherever you are and wherever you go that kind of clears your chakras out and grounds you and centers you, and but it's real simple, so anybody can do it. Before we get too far into the discussion, I want to talk a little bit about some um, things that are coming up on the show the next couple of weeks. So we are on 8/29, so this is next week. I'm going to have Rhonda Starkey on. We're going to be discussing what are the elements and how to balance the elements, and these are the elements that are within us. So this three-part series that we're starting tonight is going to be broken up by two other shows that are going to be in front of part 2 and part 3, but they kind of go along with the whole idea, especially with the elements, because each chakra specifically works with all the elements, but specifically has its own that are really important to balance and to center and all that stuff. So I'm excited about that one. Rhonda's been doing her own videos on Facebook to discuss some of these things and her experiences and journey with her own balancing and integration of the things that she's doing. She's a really incredible individual, so I'm super excited to have her on. The following week brings us into September. I can't believe that it's already September. I feel like this year just started. We're going to have Reverend Barb on, and she's a really neat lady. We're going to be discussing spiritual guidance and being in harmony with one's true self. She's a teacher and student of A Course in Miracles, and I spoke with her on the phone about a week and a half ago. She's just a woman full of light and love, and I'm really excited about having her on. I think that some of the messages that she has to convey and some of the things that she's doing with her own page and community are really important to all of our development. So if you can give that a listen. The following week, we're going to get into part 2 of the chakra clearing. I'm sorry, the Inside the Chakras series. And we're going to go a little bit further. Today, we're mostly going to be talking about some of the basic stuff from the blog that I posted. And part 2 is going to be really about the secondary chakras and how they work with the primary chakras that we're discussing tonight, and of course methods of recovering and information that are sitting inside the chakra. So that'll be really fun and interesting too, I think. And then of course part 3 will be September the 19th, which is going to be a little bit more intimate details on the chakras, continued discussion, and working with them in layers. If you've listened to any of my shows or know my work, then you understand and know that I see almost everything in layers. So what we'll be discussing tonight, you'll hear me mention that a lot, and I'll get into that and explain it a little bit better. There are some other things going on. If you're listening, like I said, outside of IntuiTalks, we're broadcasting from IntuiTalks.com. This is a spiritual network. If you are interested in having your own podcast or your own spiritual website, you can actually contact the owner here on IntuiTalks. Just go to IntuiTalks.com and go to the contact menu. It's a really cool network. There's some really neat podcasts on here. As a matter of fact, coming up even after this show tonight is Kathleen Moore on Curious Times, Selva Dutton's on Curious Times on the 24th, and Corrine DeWinter on the 25th. Curious Times is on almost every night, and that's a fun show to listen to. It's on a little too late for me, so I always have to catch the replays. But Chris always cracks me up. She's a great host. And she always brings a lot of really interesting topics up for discussion. I like that show because even if she does believe what's happening and what's going on, she still challenges things with questions and makes you think. So that's a fun show. Also, there's Empowering Women coming up on August 26th at 6:30, and then Angel Meadows has some people on also um, on the 26th at 6:30. So it looks like there's lots of stuff going on the rest of this month. If you get a chance to look it up, there's some archive shows also on here. I know one of them is the Teaching Tuesday show with Renee Richards. If you don't know who Renee Richards is or anything about her Teaching Tuesday show, that place is a gold mine of information for psychic development. She's an amazing teacher and mentor, so definitely check that show out. I don't think there's been anything new published lately, but like I said, her old shows and archives are on there, and there is some I mean incredible information on there. I actually had the pleasure of having Renee on my show not too long ago, here on my show, Energy Readings with Shelby Aesthetic, and it was so much fun. Like I said, check all this stuff out. There's just so much going on all the time. It's hard to keep up with, so I actually have to pull the page up and read off of it when whenever I sign on to make sure I catch everything. Um, anyway, so let's get to this because there's a lot of information to cover, and I'm going to try to get through all of this. The show's scheduled for 1 hour. It may take a little less time to get through this, and it may take a little bit more, but we'll try to like kind of get right in the middle of it. So before we get started, get too deep into it, I want to reiterate what the show is about. This is the part 1 of 3 series inside the chakras. This is about a blog post that I made, and basically it's sort of the way that I see the inside of a chakra. And we are going to be talking about the basics. So for anybody that's listening that's really new to this, I'll try to go over some of the information also so that it doesn't get too confusing. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always message me later. So the thing we're going to be discussing are the 7 main chakras, and there's higher and lower chakras below the ones we're going to be talking about, but we're just going to stick with the simplest way that I can explain this stuff, because I think that sometimes in my vision it becomes so difficult. There's so much information that comes in, it becomes so difficult to put into words. So it's always easier for me to just kind of simplify things when I see them. So, and if you don't know all the chakras, that's okay, because we're going to touch on all of them. Now, on the blog post, you can also find this blog post. It was on my webpage, thirdeyebetty.com, under blog, but I tried to find it earlier and I couldn't see it. So if you can't find it, you can go to thirdeyebetty.wordpress.com and scroll down. The blog is called Awakenings, and the post is called Inside the Chakras for anybody that wants to view it. Now, I want to also say that this is the way that I see. So this may not be the way that you see or the way that you relate to any of the things that are happening. This is just these are my methods and my view in these things. If you see, feel, or notice anything different or out of the ordinary than what I'm talking about, it doesn't mean that you're wrong and I'm right, or that I'm right and you're wrong. It just means that we view and see things a little bit differently. I'm of a strong opinion that there's no little me's and big U's, so that we're all equal. We just see, feel, and know things differently, and I think that's important in the world, because we're all going the same place. So there's also a really rough picture that I posted of examples of the chakras. That this is going to be now. When I'm speaking of these tonight, we're going to be specifically talking about them as though you're looking at them as though it's a plate on the wall. Okay, so it's going to be a round circle in front of you. And because they're multidimensional, just like we are, there's different ways to spin them. But tonight, for simplicity, we're going to be talking about them as though we're viewing them, looking straight at them. Oh, thank you for everybody in the chat room. Hello, Darlene, and hello, Jenny. Okay, so one thing to remember is we have a front and a back side to each chakra. And I know a lot of people work with the front side of the chakra. I know that I had no idea that there was really anything to do with the back side of them. When I first started this, it was actually surprised me. So when you do this work and you are working with the chakras, remember you can spin yourself around and look at the back side of each chakra and work with them in that way. Um, and I want to also, I'm trying not to get too much information complicated and twisted, but if you're looking at the front side of the chakra, the way that I view it is I don't just see, and I'll use the solar plexus as an example. I don't just see, a yellow ball of light. What I see is this yellow ball of light, and as I go into it, I begin to see what I have called they're like vortexes, is what they look like. They look like tiny vortexes inside of them. This is on the front and the back. Um, and typically I'll see between 4 and 8. I haven't seen any that are 12, but I have a feeling that there are some. I do know one person where I see 8 of them, and I can see the birthing of 2 more. So I don't know how far up they go, but in my experience, I typically see 4, 6, or 8 vortexes. Um, and the way that I view this is these vortexes pull light in specifically to the chakras. So to me, they're increasing the light quotient to the area of the chakra. And then inside of each vortex are what I call chakra atoms. That's what they look like to me. They're tiny balls of light that have spinning motion around them. And when I'm doing energy work, if I touch one of those, it will bring me to specific locations in body, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want to start with the vortexes. So as I said before, they come in 4, 6, or 8, and probably 12. And each vortex itself has information about the chakra that the vortex are in. So for instance, let's say I'm looking at somebody's heart chakra from the front side, and for an example, I'll see 4 vortex. Now, what I do is I look for clues in these vortex because the chakra itself will spin or it won't. It'll spin one way or the opposite way. But inside, I'll see those vortex, and it's the same thing with the vortex. I have to look to see, are they spinning? Which way are they spinning? And particularly, they make a specific sound, and the hum of each vortex makes up the overall sound of the chakra that I'm looking at. So and that depends on how fast those little vortex go, and depending on how quickly they're spinning, and if they're spinning in unison, you'll see development of more vortex being birthed into the chakra. One thing to take particular note of for me is the incoming of those new vortex, because um, I call it birthing the vortex, the new vortex, and I don't know if that's the right word or not, but that's what I use. It may not show complete as they're coming in, but I'll know they're coming in. It's like a new tooth being pushed through the gum. Now, if I turn that same person around and I'm looking at the backside of their heart chakra, for instance, it'll more than likely match what is on the front side as far as what's receiving energy. Or I'm sorry, it won't match. And that is because the front and the back, to me, are 2 totally different, not just parts of the anatomy, but energetically 2 things that are happening. So especially on the back side, it's more about receiving information. On the front side is really your interaction with what's happening around you. So if an example is if there's 6 fully developed and openly spinning healthy vortex on the back side of somebody, if I turn them around, that same chakra on the front side maybe will only have 4. And the newer chakras coming in may not be developed yet. So it seems like to me also the vortex will develop in pairs. And I usually attribute this to polarities of the chakra because the way I see again is in layers, and it really is to me about polarity, and it's about balancing. Ultimately, we're trying to balance our energy bodies. So typically, I don't. Every once in a while, I'll see a lone one, but it usually almost always has one trying to come in or has not fully developed or something like that. So, basically, you have your chakra, and then inside the chakra are these vortex that are bringing out in light, and then inside of the vortex that is spinning are the atoms, which is where the information is. Now there is information in the vortex. That's what's actually pulling in, and I call it light. It's like feeding your energy body. It's feeding your because that's what a chakra is. It's an energy center. So these vortex are feeding that particular chakra, and those atoms will relate to. I can almost always find, especially with people that have chronic pain, I can almost always find it inside those little atoms. It'll take me right to it. So, and if you're moving into the vortex, that brings a whole wealth of additional information on its own. I have mentioned before, the atom. So the information from the atom is going to be different from the information from the vortex, and I'm saying that because there's so much. When I'm doing a reading, I don't just go into the person's heart and give a reading. I go into the person's heart, and then I kind of come back out once I'm connected into their heart, and that way I can view all of these different things, because I think um, there's an overall picture. I often compare the way I see and the vision that I see to oil paintings, because it's all in layers, and all of the information is super important. So if I go into one of those vortex, say into the heart chakra of the person I was just mentioning, and I grab one of those atoms, it'll lead me to, we'll say, a pancreas or a liver or something like that, or it'll show me something about the way that somebody's blood is flowing. And if I latch onto an atom on the back side of the same chakra, it can lead me to, on the back side is different. It'll lead me to parts of other spiritual bodies, the emotional, mental, spiritual bodies. So if I go into the backside and I take the clue that I'm getting from the backside, which has brought me to someone's emotional body, and I take the clue of the pancreatic symptom, for instance, from the front side, and I put both of those together, I can understand the scarring, the energetic scar tissue that I'm seeing, and where it's relating onto specific parts of the body. And it's important when doing energy work to understand a lot of the anatomy is super important, but it's even more important to understand how these things work together. Because I have to look at the particular vortex that I'm in and say, is this moving in the right direction? Is this matching the pitch of its counterpart? And then once all the clues are together, I can add light to the atom, and it'll filter out into the exact spot on the physical body, say the pancreas or wherever it is that I'm looking. And including the emotional and the spiritual bodies, it pushes light into all of those areas. And when this is happening, I can usually receive more specific information on where and why the aspect of the chakra vortex and atoms are the way they are. It's basically about healing traumas, or the different aspects of ourselves. And now, I say this when I do energy work too, this work is really being shown to me by the person that's seeking the information. I'm not actually doing anything. Their energy is conveying these things to me. And I say that because it's super vital that each person takes ownership of their own power and healing. Energy workers and healers can do a world of good for a lot of people, Reiki, all of that stuff, but ultimately it is up to the sitter. It's great to get a refresh and energy charge from somebody that knows how to do it. Somebody that you trust in your energy is also something really important. You just don't want to just let anybody do it. Make sure you have somebody that has good references and can at least work their way through some of the stuff that's going on. Because you don't want somebody and all of their crap, so to speak, into your session with you. So I'm mentioning that because I have lots of people that'll contact me to do energy work, and I love it. I love energy work. It is like one of my favorite things in the whole world to do. But it's also really important that the person understands their own power and all of this stuff. I'm not. The power doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the person that I'm working with. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about the front and back of each chakra being developed separately. And as I had mentioned earlier, you typically don't have the matching number of vortex on the front as you do on the back. And this is really about our interactions, our chakras interactions with the world around us, as well as receiving the higher information of light that comes to us in various ways. And I found through my own viewing of various people and their chakras that many who are involved with spiritual works or developments have a somewhat closer match on their chakras versus people who may be more disconnected from the spiritual aspect of life. And again, I really think that has a lot to do with the chakra interaction and how it's if you're feeding yourself light and you're doing things that you're supposed to be doing for yourself and healing yourself and taking care of yourself, then you're going to have an overall healthier energy body. And really, your spiritual bodies are your physical body is just a small portion of who we are. And I'm sure you've heard me say this times already about being multidimensional beings. Excuse me. And I absolutely 100% believe that, and I believe that the way our chakras communicate with the world around us is multidimensional. The third part of this series will really get into how those chakras speak to and communicate to us and to our spiritual bodies. Today we're talking about them as though we're looking at them, forward, as though you see them on a picture and they're the round circles of different colors of light. It's also in my view, I like to flip them so they're flat like a record and spin them way out, because really that's when you really start communicating with the higher information that can come in through your spiritual bodies. So again, it's all really about layers, and inside each of these vortex, and the vortexes are important in my view of the chakra, because what that's doing is telling me, if I look at the overall chakra, if I step back and all I see is the color, and I can see your chakra spinning, for instance, one of them may be kind of slow, so I can get in a little closer, and that's when I'll start seeing these details with the vortex. I'll be able to see the vortex will be working, like I said, they come in pairs. Sometimes they work almost against each other to neutralize the light that's coming in. When they're working in unison, you're bringing in a duality to each chakra. So, and there's, like I said, 4, 6, 8 of them going at a time. So if you have, somebody with 4 of them and 2 of them are spinning perfect, they're humming, they sing, they sound beautiful, and then the other 2 are going the opposite direction, and it sounds like a record scratching or something, then I know that there's a problem there, and I will go into those the vortex that are running backwards. And that's when I get into that the atom work, the chakra atom work, which really begins to tell me the information about the person's body, whether it's physical trauma, emotional trauma, spiritual trauma. It's all different. So real quick, because I would love to do a short meditation too. But real quick, I want to go through some of the chakra basics real quick for anybody that's listening that might not be quite aware. We're going to be talking about them as wheels today instead of the discs, okay? A chakra basic is that they're concentrated energy centers. So I mentioned the major and the minor chakras, and today we're talking about the 7 major chakras that most of us, I think, are pretty familiar with. And then next time we do part 2, we'll be getting into the secondary chakras and how those energy centers work with these 7 main chakras. Because I'm mentioning the vortex and the atoms now, but when I get into the secondary chakras, it really begins to go quickly, because those secondary chakras are what is pushing the light into your main chakras from my view. There is your root chakra. This is the one. Now this is the first chakra, and it's located all the way at the base of your spine. And this is really your survival, your basic needs chakra. It's really where most people learn to ground from and support themselves. It's your foundation for living. The element of the root chakra is earth. There are some things that you can notice about the imbalanced is the fear, greed, excessive negativity, and when it's open and healthy, you'll feel grounded and earthy. A good way, another good thing too about this particular chakra is being out in nature and gardening, cooking, hiking, stuff like that. Anything that's real like earthy and brings you to that will really help to balance all that stuff. Meditation on all of these chakras are an excellent way to support them. Now, I think most people see this chakra as red, and I usually see it as red, but I've also seen with purple in it. So there's no wrong way. Again, there's no wrong way to see these. The second chakra is the sacral chakra. It's the orange one, typically, and its element is water. It's located, it's like 2 inches below your navel. This is an interesting one. Most people confuse your root chakra with your sexual creativity, your flow, your emotion, but it's not. This is your sacral chakra that holds that. Your root chakra is more grounded in the basic survival. It's that like rawness of someone. The sacral chakra is much more about sensuality, flow, creativity, sexual expression is important to keep this one balanced even and being okay with who you are in that way. A lot of our fears come from the sacral chakra. You can use stones for clearing. You know, anything really. I've seen people with it do the tantric stuff. I've seen people do different binaural beats for different chakras. The sacral chakra specifically supports our development of flexibility in life. It supports our personal expansion of information. It's really best way to put it for me as far as the sacral chakra goes. It is the way and the identity on how we relate to others. This is your creative part of you. Um, in balance, you can find yourself codependent, ruled by emotion or no emotion, overindulgence or underindulgence. I think typically people see it as orange. I've seen them with orange and it has real light color of blue in it or white. And all of those are clues for me because of the way that I see color. So I'll know that there's a connection. All of these are connected to the heart, by the way. But I know that there'll be a connection with certain things. I will see this color orange of the sacral chakra around someone's eyes sometimes when I know that they have creative vision, or I'll see it around their hands and I'll know that they use their hands creatively. Um, if you want to help open it, and this works close with the root because this is, your fear rises from the bottom and goes up, and it gets in each one of your chakras. So, you can always work with all of them in pairs. But improve your sexuality. You can do hip opening exercises. Balance work is really important on all of the chakras, but particularly for me, this one. The third one is the solar plexus. It's located right around the diaphragm area. I'm sorry if I'm going quickly. I'm trying to get through a ton of information. Typically, it is shown to people, or they know it as being yellow. To me, I see a vast amount of different yellows. My mentor, actually, hers is gold. It's very interesting. The element of the solar plexus, fire. And I mentioned next week's show we're going to be doing element balancing, and this is part of the work is the balance of chakras because it all holds those specific elements for us to balance. Anyway, this solar plexus will support your willpower, your intellect, your personal opinions, your ability to be assertive, aggressive, but assertive. Self-discipline is a big one here. And it's your personal identification, your independence. And at higher levels, it can convey deep wisdom. When you see balance issues, you'll usually see somebody that's very controlling or obsessive, that may lack direction or ambition, super manipulative. And then, of course, you always have the people that are very abusive with their power, and that's usually a solar plexus issue. It's connected into the solar plexus. and to help balance it, um, being out in the sun, go sit out in the sun for a little while, go swimming, meditation, standing up for yourself is a big one, and self-discipline, which I always tell people, like, start super small with that and take little tiny things. If you're trying to improve your diet, just, start by drinking more water, or start by cutting out soda, or, whatever. Just, but start small, and really embrace yourself and take steps towards being the person that you want to be, because it doesn't just change overnight. Like, I can want to be the best person in the whole world, but if I still have anger issues, or you know walls up of not allowing people to come into me, or if I'm a malicious person or anything like that, I have to learn to untangle myself from those things and learn to really embrace who I want to be. So um, I don't know. Some people say fake it till you make it, but I don't care for that saying myself. I guess it works for some people, but for me, I feel like it's more important to embrace who I am, or not who I am, just who I am, but who I want to be also, and who do I want to become. And nobody changes overnight. Nobody. Um, Okay, your heart chakra is the fourth chakra. It's located right at the center of your chest, usually. And I want to also say, I'm telling you where these are, and they may be. It's not going to be exact for everybody. And I mean, some people's heart chakras aren't right at the center. It's kind of maybe even between the breastplate sometimes. Um, the colors are usually green. I've seen them pink or teal even. I've seen all the colors of each chakra inside the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the easiest one for me personally to be able to connect into with people. I don't know what that is with me. It's I don't know. I'm like a moth to a flame when I see them. They're just these incredible. Um, Sometimes I wish I could just download what I see for other people to look at. There's just the most incredible. The sound. It's just like nothing. I can never get enough of seeing or hearing things around the heart chakra. Even when there's pain involved, there's the trueness of yourself is in the heart, and the embracement of the soul is in your heart. So, and that's to me the most beautiful of all things. The heart chakra is all about connecting and relating. It supports our ability to love not just other people, but ourselves, and being compassionate and aware. The heart is the carrier of transformations for us. It's our integration center. It helps us forgive not just other people, but ourselves, and it is our center to be able to grieve. Our most deepest meaningful relationships are always going to be supported at the heart chakra, not the root or the sacral chakra like my teenage years. This also connects all of our lower and our upper chakras. I think right now we're in a time of, I said, a period of history would be a better way to say it, where we're 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 integrating so many parts of ourselves, and our chakras are moving into the heart and connecting our solar plexus and our throat. And right now is the time of truth. It is the time not to just speak our truth, but it's the time to uncover truth, which brings us right into the throat chakra, which is located at the throat. It's usually light blue, aquamarine, turquoise. Um, the the element here is sound or vibration. When you have a connection with your throat and your heart, this is when the true will of, because if you're connected at your heart with your throat, then your will point, your solar plexus, is all of it's connected. This is going to give you the expression of truth, not just in communication verbally, but in non-verbally. This is where your life purpose is going to come from. Your help with or helping with spirit communication. And I think we all know when the throat is out of balance, we speak inappropriately, or we say too much or say too little. And when I say inappropriately, I don't mean you're throwing f-bombs around. I mean you're saying things that are hurtful or hateful, or spreading lies, or is a big one. Inability to listen is also connected to the throat. Excessive shyness. I used to say that it was because I was an introvert, but my introvertedness went to the extreme, where it wasn't just because I didn't want to be around other people's energy. It's because I had fear. There was fear around being around other people. And once I was able to discern that, because I am an introvert, but once I stopped using that as my excuse to not interact with other people, the fear, and I let the fear go, that's when it really started leaving me. And my throat really started opening up. I was able to speak my truth, not just in speaking, but through writing, and really the things that I wanted to do and say. It's hard to stand up for yourself sometimes. You know, we mentioned earlier about the solar plexus and that kind of being the area where we really stand up for ourselves. But you have to be strong in both of those areas to speak the things that you need to speak and to say the things that you need to say. Um, Moving right along is the third eye, which is located usually in between the brow or the center of the forehead. The color is typically indigo. I've seen purple. I've seen them white. I've seen one that was blue and white. And the element here is light. This is really the support system for your imagination. This gives you where you get your visions, your intuition, your psychic work, your wisdom, your insight, your inspiration. And I think when it's imbalanced, a lot of times there's a lack of clarity or not being able to see a big picture. Spiritual rejection is a big one. Psychic fantasy and illusion, and inability to see reality. Open and balanced, you're able to silence the mind, work with your intuition, and really trust your intuition. Uh, it's that ground. It's like ground that area so you can fly is what I wrote down. Especially when you're doing psychic work, communicating with Earth and the elements. You're able to focus on the space in between things, like in the middle of a doorway. When the lights are kind of dim, if you'll look in between a doorway, a lot of times you'll start seeing flashes of light or weird stuff. Just do it. It's awesome. But just kind of pay attention to those areas, and sometimes just as you're staring off, you'll start to hear things. Uh, Not like a voice necessarily, but just a knowing of something that's speaking to you, something higher than you are. And then next is your crown chakra, which is located at the top of your head. That color's purple. It can be white. It can be, I've seen gold. This supports your consciousness, the awareness of your higher self, your higher consciousness, your sacred wisdom, being present and higher communication. Um, this is also a big one for understanding the all is one. Psychic works fun and all, but that higher information really comes from the crown area. And I think a lot of people are so hell bent on opening their third eye without doing a lot of the rest of the work. And it's really unfair to themselves because there's so much more information that you can receive, higher information at that, things that are more clear and focused and direction for yourself. That's going to come in from your crown chakra. Usually you'll see the imbalance will be a disconnection from spirit, living in your head a lot, obsessive spiritual attachments. We all know those people, being closed-minded to things, chronic depression or fatigue. When it's open, fatigue, I want to say chronic fatigue. I put that on here because that is a big one, and I really feel when your crown chakra is balanced, you don't have a lot of the fatigue. I'll notice people that have chronic fatigue when I'm speaking of looking inside of the chakras. When I go into those vortexes inside the crown chakra, it'll make me tired. And it's because of the imbalance up there. Uh, Usually when it's open, there is a greater connection to spirit and the soul. You're able to meditate with better visualizations to open and balance. Spiritual nourishment is really the part right there with the crown chakra. So that's just sort of the basics with the crown chakra, or with all the chakras, excuse me. And I mentioned all those just in case somebody hasn't heard or understand some of them. So when we're looking at them with the layers, and we're looking at them, as we're looking at them straight on, and then we'll see the balls of light. We go into the ball of light, and again, when the way that I'm describing these things and how I'm seeing these things could be totally and completely different than the way that you see them. So when we do our meditation here in a few minutes, um, just kind of keep that in mind. If I'm saying things that you don't relate to, or if I say, you'll see this or feel this, might see things differently. You might feel things differently. I think that's one of the big reasons that I wrote the different colors of the chakras down too. Some people, feel the weight of them, or they'll feel like they're getting pulled to the left, or they feel like they're getting pulled to the right, and that's about your balance issue inside of that specific chakra. And I also want to reiterate the front and the back side of each one. So when we do the simple meditation that we do today, in each one of the series, the meditation will be a little bit different. We'll use, this first one as the base of the meditation. But on the second part of the series, we'll get into more of the details of some of the chakras. And of course, the third one, we're really going to go to the different layers of the chakra. So, and I'm not going to repeat all of this information in each one of this series. I just wanted to get the basics out for this particular one. And like I said, in a few minutes we'll start this is just something too, and you can add your own spin to all of this stuff. So there's no wrong way to do any of this stuff. This is just a simple basic thing that I do to clear my own chakras. You can do this while you're in line at the grocery store, waiting at the checkout. You can do this, wherever you want. I usually say it's best to try to find someplace quiet to do it, but sometimes you're there. You have a few minutes, you're busy at home. When you get home, you got kids to feed and you got your house to clean up, or you've had a long day at work and you don't have time, to do just do these things whenever and wherever you can. There's no wrong answer. It's, to me, doing any work like this, even if it's small, or not the sitting on top of the mountain in the Om. If you're doing any work towards your spiritual development, it's better than doing no work towards your spiritual development. So no matter how small of steps you're taking to improve yourself and to make yourself better and to clear yourself, you're only going to benefit from this stuff. I will say this too. I was working with somebody a few days ago, doing some chakra work, and when she would get to one of the specific chakras she would smell these certain smells. So that's another way to get information. If when we're doing this, take notice of anything, no matter how small. I think in the beginning it's hard to notice maybe any of the stuff, but kind of keep in mind, like, if you feel anything, you don't have to interact with the thoughts. They're just there to tell you something. I know one of the big ways, especially in Buddhism, when they do and they teach meditation, or even self-realization workshops, a lot of times they say don't interact with thoughts. Don't interact with them, just ignore them. And my thinking behind that is a little bit different, because I don't necessarily interact with the thoughts, but I think that is our energy trying to relay information to us. So not that these monks that have been doing this for thousands of years have it wrong. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying there is an alternative to some of the information that's coming in. I choose not to ignore the things that are coming to me. I want to notice them, because I feel like those are the signals to me about what's right on the surface for healing sometimes, or what's still in my energy. I know a lot of people will discuss when they go into meditations, they can't stop thinking about work, or they can't stop thinking about a conflict that they had with their partner or their child. And I don't think that, don't run and play with those thoughts and have an art, I should have said all of this to him. Don't get into all of that. But it's telling you this is still in your energy, so it needs to be either cleared out or let go. And the way that I prefer to do it is to not, like I said, interact with it, but look at it and acknowledge it, kind of push it away. Because when it's time for me to deal with these things, they're going to be dealt with. If I'm in meditation and I have a childhood memory that keeps coming up, those memories are coming up for a reason. Specifically, if I'm in a meditation, that is the inner parts of myself. It could be, my ego talking to me about something. It could be my inner child talking to me about something. But my energy is speaking to me, and it's always speaking to you. So the more you pay attention to what's being conveyed to you, thoughts are not always just thoughts. Sometimes, and this is where the discernment comes in, and you only get the discernment through practice. Thoughts are not just these random things that pop in our heads. Sometimes they actually mean important things to us. So just pay attention while we're doing this meditation. And again, it's just a short, simple meditation. There's nothing to it. So let's all just take just a second and close your eyes if you want to. You don't have to. Take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And all we're doing right now is we're just kind of relaxing. We're letting the thoughts of the day, the worries of the day just kind of go away. We're just relaxing. So with your eyes closed or open if you want to, start to focus right at the center of your heart where your heart chakra is, and just think about that area for a second, the physical location of that area. You can imagine that area as a glowing ball of light. It can be green or pink or whatever you see, spinning, or maybe it's not. It can be open. If it's not spinning, just move it a little, just spin it around. I like to put my hand in there and just spin it around like a rotary clock, like a rotary phone. And use your intuition, there's no wrong way. Move it. Feels tight, open it up. You want it to fill your entire chest and just let it spin for a minute. We're going to start to unify all of our chakras. Take a deep breath in through your nose and pull the light of source all the way through your crown chakra, your third eye, your throat, and let it settle in at your heart. And as you do, your heart will start to expand wider and wider. It'll fill your chest. Start to feel it connect in with your solar plexus and your throat. It gets wider and wider. This isn't flat. This is a sphere. So it's encompassing not just the front, back. Turn yourself around and look at the back, and you'll see it growing larger and larger. Starts to connect with your crown, your sacral chakra, and it grows larger and larger to your root chakra. It just gets bigger and bigger. Keep breathing this light in. You might hear the way it sounds. It could be singing to you. Be silent. It's larger and larger until you find yourself standing right in the middle of it. This is your center. You are completely and totally embraced right now by the heart, by the love of Source that is connected to you through your heart. What we're going to do now, focus back in on the center of your chest while this sphere is spinning around you. Take a deep breath in, and as you blow out, push that energy through your solar plexus, through your sacral chakra, through your root chakra. You might feel a pulsing at your perineum, pushing down past your knees, past your ankles, going out of the bottom of your foot. It just keeps going down. You may see some other chakras that is passing through, the lower chakras, the earth chakra. You may not, that's okay. You're pushing it down into the earth, past the crust, further down. You may smell the earth, the dirt, the soil, but it's warm. and you're surrounded by your heart and the light of source. You're pushing it down further and further. You're going to keep going all the way down, all the way down to the center of the earth, or the heart of the earth. You rest. When you get to the center of the earth, sit here for a minute. You can stand if you want. You can sit. Picture it however you want. You might be surrounded by lava. You might be surrounded by heat. It could just be light. There's no wrong answer. Your heart is now connected to the center of the earth's heart, the mother energy. It's always welcoming you and embracing you. So just sit here until you feel steady and grounded. You may feel it start to creep through your legs. You may feel a tightness in your body. Take a deep breath in through your nose and you'll pull all of this energy, which is now completely one, back up your central channel, all the way up, raising in frequency as it comes up, all the way up, comes up through the crust. You'll feel it go into the bottom of your feet, all the way past your knees, into your root chakra, and this is where we're going to let it sit for a minute. And we're going to pull it up to the sacral chakra. We're pulling it into the solar plexus. We're pulling it into the heart. And anchor it right here for now. You are completely safe, embraced by love, connected fully to the earth. Here that you can communicate with the different elements of the earth, nature. This itself is its own meditation where you can spend as long as you want communicating. But for now, we're going to take all of this energy, which is connected at the heart and anchored. We're going to pull it up through the throat, up through the third eye, up through the crown. Goes higher, higher. You may see some of the higher chakras. You may see consciousness. Keep going. Completely surrounded and embraced. All the way. Going faster and faster now. All the way up to source. It can be anything that you imagine. It can be the sun. It can be a ball of light. It can be Christ. Whatever you think. Universe. You go all the way up. And you center yourself right in the middle of the heart. Light is so pure. You may hear humming, singing, feel certain things in your body. I'm going to sit right here for a minute. Connected the earth into source through our heart. Complete and total embrace of love. Body may start to heat up. Take a deep breath in. As you blow out, bring that energy down, back down, back down. This is a higher, finer frequency. It moves quite a bit faster. Comes in through your crown, opening it wide, and through your third eye, into your throat. Let it rest right at your heart. We're now fully connected to Source. We're going to connect Source back into the earth for one last anchor before we finish. Deep breath in through your nose and push quickly all the way out. Down, down, past your solar plexus, your sacral, your root chakra, out the bottom of your feet, all the way down, back to the center of the earth for a final anchor. When you get there, you know that you are fully connected and grounded not only into earth, but into the source of all. For a moment, just stay there. Start to become aware physically of the center of your chest again. You'll just focus there for a second. Put your eyes right there for a moment. You may see yourself looking back at you. You may see consciousness there. You may see energy there. You may see singing, humming, spinning. Know that you are fully anchored, both up and down. And open your eyes. That is it. Nice. I don't know about you guys, but I feel excellent. Okay, so I was afraid we weren't going to be able to get through everything, and we did. I'm so pleased about this. So that was a quick way to ground yourself both into the earth and all the way up to source. And this also helps to clear out a lot of the junk and build up in your chakras. And you can do this quickly, especially I mentioned being worried about going places. This is an excellent thing to do before you go into like a big superstore or you have to go interact with a lot of people. And every time I do this, my whole core tightens. It gets so tight my solar plexus starts shaking really hard, and this is right after I start doing this is when I usually am able to connect to spirits. So easy. You're welcome, Kathleen, and Jenny and Karine. It's good to see you. So that's just a quick meditation, and then we're doing this time because the next show that we have, part 2, which isn't going to be for a few weeks because I've got 2 other shows before that. Will be on the 12th of September, and we're going to be talking about the methods of receiving information from the secondary chakras and how they work with the first ones. And we're going to incorporate that into this particular meditation. So the next meditation will have a little more detail to it, and we'll talk a little bit. I think more of the show will be on meditation with the chakras, and then on the third show there will be a deep meditation where we will clear out in layers, and this is how our emotional, spiritual, and mental bodies are going to be cleared out through the dynamics of the layers of the chakras and how they spin out. So this is all super exciting stuff. I'm so happy you guys could join me tonight. I appreciate everybody that came for the show. I always thank you guys for being here. I always feel so supported. And everybody that's listening, again, we're broadcasting off of IntuiTalks.com. So check out that website. There's a ton of information and shows on. I had already gone through the shows earlier at the beginning, so make sure to check out. Chris is on after this at 10 p.m. Eastern with Kathleen Moore. And I have to mention it because she's here. Karine is going to be on the show on Saturday. So you guys check out the upcoming schedule. There's always really cool stuff going on here. You can connect with me on Twitter at Third Eye Betty. Facebook, you can find me at Energy Readings with Shelby Aesthetic. I'm also on Instagram. I'm all over the place. Just look up Third Eye Betty. I'm on WordPress. I'm on everywhere. I try to be everywhere. So if you want to connect with me, please do so. Usually I use my Twitter account to talk about upcoming shows and stuff. I'm sure that Jenny from IntuiTalks appreciates all of my tweeting that I do. But I enjoy the community here, and I enjoy connecting with people, so please do. And thank you all so much again. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So we will catch up next week when Rhonda Starkey's here, and we are talking about balancing the elements within us. So I look forward to seeing everybody again. Thank you very much for showing up, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you.